Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unity of Santa Barbara. We are so happy to see you here, our second week of in-person sanctuary service. That's exciting, right? And we are also welcoming all the people who are watching online this morning. So welcome, and then we have a special welcome to our featured guest speaker this morning, Reverend Heidi Alfrey. Thank you for being here. So we're going to start out with the daily word for today, which is will. The word is will. And the affirmation is, spiritual understanding guides my will. Each day I use my will to make decisions, big and small, that affect the quality and direction of my life. Through the use of my human will, I may make choices out of fear or a sense of lack, or I may be driven by my desire for convenience, comfort, or the pleasures of the moment. The use of my spiritual will, however, directs my choices toward a greater awareness of my divine nature. As I grow spiritually, I use my will to shine my Christ light even more brightly. I grow in willingness to co-create with God as I release my willfulness to do everything on my own. As I live more intentionally from my divinity, the light of spiritual understanding dawns within me and directs my will. And from Scripture, I hereby command you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And that is from Joshua 1:9. So the word for today is will. Spiritual understanding guides my will. And so it is. And here's Woody with some music for us. Thank you, Woody. That was beautiful. And thank you to the AV team for those beautiful graphics. Okay, well, we're going to start off with some announcements. In case you missed the memo, some people obviously missed the memo about 9:30 service, but for the next couple of weeks, we will be having two services, 9:30 and 11:15, and that will be at least until July 12th, and we will keep you updated about that. And then, as part of the Santa Barbara County Health Officials pandemic protocols, pandemic protocols, we can only seat up to 25% of our capacity here in the sanctuary. So we have set up a registration system. It's online. It is also in the weekly email that comes out. For those who wish to attend in person, attend one of these services, and we strongly encourage you to register. We will have space set aside for overflow, but there will be no guarantee that you will get a seat. So registration is the best way to go. And you can call the office if you have any other questions. In addition to physical distancing, masks and temperature screenings are required to enter the sanctuary. If you are sick, please stay home. Let me say that one more time. If you are sick or have any symptoms at all, please do us all a loving favor and stay home and watch the service online. We will continue to live stream, of course. And here in the sanctuary, there will not be any singing, although we might break that rule a little tiny bit at the end with the peace song. Don't tell anybody. Mm-hmm. And there will also not, Sherry's out there going, and we also will not be passing the offering baskets. There are baskets, boxes there at the exits. When you exit, please put your gift right there in those boxes. Or you can donate online, of course. Unfortunately, we will not be able to have refreshments after the service. I think that there is some creative way to do that in the future, but right now that's not going to be happening. However, you are welcome to visit with each other after service out on our beautiful new patio. We do ask that you practice appropriate social distancing and, if necessary, wear your mask. And some of the ushers, understanding that we're all having trouble with this, right? We will give you a gentle reminder to just stand at least 6 feet apart. We have a speaker's schedule coming up next week, July 5th. Reverend Kathy Norman will return. And then after that, on the 12th, Reverend Bob Euler will be here. He will be presenting a workshop on Saturday, July 11th, and just like this weekend, registration will be required for that. There'll be more information on our website and in the weekly emails that go out, so take a look at that, and please plan on being here. Flower dedications have returned with the next available date on July 5th. Today's flowers, and I haven't even looked at them. Wow, beautiful, beautiful arrangement, designed by Catherine Davis, with the anonymous donor offering the following dedication. With openness to receiving Spirit's guidance for our community's next step in the ministerial selection process for Unity of Santa Barbara. And so whoever the anonymous donor is, thank you so very much from all of us and from Unity of Santa Barbara. Yeah. And you can sign up for the you can sign up or email Unity of Santa Barbara and sign up with your loving flower dedications. And also, the bookstore will be open today between services should you want to buy the latest Daily Word or other reading materials. In case any of you don't know about Daily Word, it's really something wonderful. You can either buy the hard copy or order it online. And that is it for our announcements this morning. And now we'd like to go over our vision, our mission, our core values, and our statement of faith. So our vision is what we hold for the world. We say it as an affirmation because we want to know and live into what is happening right now. So it is an affirmation of what we see in the world now and expanding from this point on. So let's say our vision together. Centered in divine love, we celebrate a kind and awakened world filled with peace, abundance, and joy. And our mission statement is what and who we want to be as a spiritual community, as individuals, and in this community and in the world. This is how we want to step into our vision and make our vision real. So let's say our mission together. We inspire, educate, and serve to awaken our oneness with Spirit. And our core values are really what guides us. These are the values that we have that really propel us forward into realizing our mission. So let's say these core values together. We are community, we are abundance, we are love, we are God-centered, we are inclusive, and we consciously, and I may have left one out, but you know what we're talking about here. And then our statement of faith is the cornerstone of who we are as a faith community. It really is where the rubber meets the road. This really speaks to our deep connection with each other and our oneness with Spirit. So let's say this together. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the infinite, living, loving presence of God. And so let's just take a moment to allow those really beautiful and powerful words to penetrate into our consciousness. You can close your eyes for a moment if you'd like. Just take a breath and allow me to read this to you one more time. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the infinite, living, loving presence of God. Just let those words penetrate deep into your consciousness. Begin to feel that on a cellular level within your body and within your heart. Knowing this truth, we are one with each other and with God. And so it is. And now here is Shantiz and Woody DeMarco with I think it's a video, yes? I Choose Love. And here we go.
I can see laughter, I can see tears, I see a choice between love or fear. What do you choose? I can see peace and I can see war. I can see sunshine and I can see a storm. What do you choose? Now I choose to live with the freedom flying from my heart where the light keeps shining. I choose to feel the whole world crying in the I can see greed. I can see caring or poverty. Oh, what do you choose? I can see gardens and I can see bombs. I can see life or death coming on strong. Yeah. What do you choose? Oh, I choose to feel the whole world crying with my love and one voice rising. I choose to feel us all united in the strength that we can rise above. I choose love. I choose love. Now I choose to love with freedom flying from my heart with light keeps shining. I choose to feel us all united in the strength that we can rise above. I choose love. I choose love. I choose love. Oh, I choose love.
Oh, I know we are all so wanting the day to come when we can have live singing in our sanctuary again. That will be a great day. And in the meantime, I just want to thank all of the musicians and all of the singers who have, and the AV team who have put together and spent time and brought their time and talents into providing these music videos for us during this time. So let's thank them. Yeah, great job, you guys. Okay, well, it is my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker this morning. We are so pleased to welcome Reverend Heidi Alfrey, who is an ordained Unity minister. She's currently serving as associate minister at Center for Spiritual Living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She has been part of New Thought churches for 30 years in Florida, Chicago, Kansas City, and Maui, serving as senior minister at Unity of Chicago for 4 years. Reverend Heidi's mission is to remind everyone that we are born to lead from the power of our bold, beautiful, authentic self. I love that. Our bold, beautiful, authentic self. She believes humor and compassion are the ways to keep our hearts open. And please join me in a warm Unity welcome for Reverend Heidi Alfrey.
Just scary. Okay, good, great. Hi, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Oh boy, this really is new church, isn't it? Yeah. So I wonder if you could just take just a second and just take your mask off and give me a smile. Or if you want to smile. No forced smiling going on. But anyway, yay. Oh, y'all are so beautiful. Thank you. What a gift. Thank you. Ah, gosh, yes. You know, I've talked to many ministers during this time, and many people say, we don't realize, you know, I've always feel like I'm up here, and the inspiration that I'm feeling is touching you, and you're, you know, with all this kind of circular, beautiful spiritual awakening. But the mask thing, you know, Reverend Kathy called me last week. She said, this is so weird. I'm like, I know. And I've had many ministers call and say, you know, we're growing. I mean, that's what we're doing really, is we are expanding. And in how we're experiencing life. And I know that what you said, Russ, when we experience what we loved before, we'll even love it with a bigger heart and a more expansive consciousness. So I'm working with this a day at a time. Thank you for being patient with me, and we'll all grow in this together. They've said one of the greatest prayers is thank you. And so before I give my talk, I want to say thank you, certainly to this community for bringing me here online and wherever you are. This has been a marvelous experience, 5 days in Santa Barbara. Yeah, that works. And it's been just beautiful on so many levels, especially meeting the community. But thank you for the commitment to be in this process. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of patience and sort of the ability to not have the outcome exactly when you want it, and just be in this sort of spacious heart. I want to thank the search team, with whom I spoke a number of times and have been delightful and engaging, and also your board of directors, board of trustees, and their leadership and their commitment and dedication to this community. And thank you all for being in that level of volunteerism. And it's just massive to become part of a spiritual community and watch what happens to you when you say, I'm in. Right, when I'm in, and it's like at first it's really like, wow, joyful and fun, and tears when people first walk into a Unity and feel that level of acceptance and love. And then it's like, what are you going to do with all that new energy? Well, you can't keep it till you give it away, it's said, right? So people in service, you realize that's what you are just led to do so quickly. So thank you to all of you. I really appreciate that, the generosity of spirit. So my talk is entitled today, Hiking the Road Less Traveled. And I'm using the word hiking rather than meandering or wandering or strolling, because the idea of hiking is very intentional. It's an experience like I'm really going to go on a hike. When people say you want to go on a hike, I'm going to wear some sturdy shoes and maybe I'm going to get a walking stick, and it's going to be different than what I might do if people just want to walk on the beach or something. So all of this, of course, is a metaphor, but the hike of the spiritual journey is very intentional, and it's focused, and it's disciplined, and it's beautiful. But you recognize the clarity that comes from the spiritual path. And then I'm using the road less traveled as a way of really choosing from your intuitive guidance, your spiritual knowing, your higher mind. And so that and I love the song, I Choose Love. That's pretty high thinking. It's a beautiful way to live. So hiking the road less traveled. There was a book that was written in 1978, The Road Less Traveled. Yes, millions of copies were sold. It was written by Scott Peck. And the first line on the first page is, life is difficult. That's the first line. Now, before I came into Unity and became so enlightened, yes, are we all so enlightened? Have to watch my ego around that. Oh, yes, I'm very enlightened, yes. Yes, but if I would have read life is difficult, the first line, I would have thrown that out the window or put it in the trash, and I don't want to experience that. Let's go have a drink. Let's go, excuse ourselves from this conversation. Life is difficult. I wanted life to be easy, and I really didn't want to participate much in it. I wanted life to just be entertaining me at all times. And as I have grown on my spiritual path and really come to understand living the principles about sort of the responsibility of being in touch with your Christ consciousness and your God self and your love nature, it's a lot of being willing to listen and to discern what is the right path, and sort of let go of all of the old stories and old beliefs. And it's a really big transition. And you do it as a lifestyle, yes? I love that Unity really is a learning center. So I am a lifelong learner. Can we say that together? I'm a lifelong learner. Here we go. I'm a lifelong learner. Yes, even through the masks, I'm feeling it, right? But what a relief that gives us, right? I don't have to be perfect on this spiritual path. I just need to be willing. I need to be willing to stay on it to the best of my ability, every moment, every day. And then I get to watch the results of a life that I'm born to lead. This is a life I'm born to lead. And it's really choice by choice by choice. So, the road less traveled. Robert Frost wrote a poem that had a line that I believe it inspired Scott Peck when he wrote. And the line is that two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Do you think your life is a little different than it was before you came into a Unity Center, perhaps especially this one? Yeah, for sure. If it isn't, talk to me at the back door, because I want to make sure, we're gonna. It's amazing how it really changes organically as you put yourself on these roads less traveled. And the road less traveled, as he's saying, it really makes the difference in the ability to not go in the flow of where sort of everybody's going, but recognize this idea of really being led from inner guidance is very different than how the world lives. It's called race consciousness. Everyone is throwing around these ideas around perhaps fear or worry or doubt, and they've been thrown around for so long you think, oh, that must be the truth. I still don't feel comfortable with it, but when we come into places like this where we actually sit and talk about the consciousness that was in Jesus, he said, these and greater things shall you do. You're like, wow. It's like that commercial. I could have had a V8. I could have lived a whole different life had I known this kind of value that I have. So it's really the opportunity to choose that path in every step. So I'd like to look at the idea of the well-worn paths. And these would be called these belief systems that you might have picked up along the way. You were all born in a certain place at a certain time. You had the family you had the area wherever you were, and there were beliefs floating around. And often before you realize that you had choices, you were just sort of inundated with the beliefs of your family, of your culture, of your area. And so these are some of the beliefs that might have come into your consciousness, and I'm calling them well-worn paths. One of them is that vulnerability is weakness. That I don't know about you, but crying usually wasn't, oh, let's cry, it's okay to cry. It was like crying is weakness. If you have emotions, that's weakness. I grew up with a lot of scientists, and nothing was wrong with the scientific experience, but you've got to also have the emotional experience, all of it. And so, that vulnerability is weakness, and vulnerability truly is strength. That your value is what's in your bank account, right? Money's great, there's nothing wrong with money, but your value is not equal to what's in your bank account. People spend a lot of time just making money and not choosing joy or their intuition, their happiness, and then, they don't equal one another, and people can get to have, a really big bank account and go, why am I still miserable? That was supposed to make me happy. And so we know that that's not the answer to your spiritual path. I think a big one is, especially in our culture, avoiding uncomfortability, avoiding pain. Like I said, life is difficult. I'm not going to read that book because I have found that it isn't, spirituality for me isn't grasping and it isn't pushing, it isn't resisting. We've heard what we resist persists. So the idea of if I can see that life has joyful moments, it has sad moments, it has moments where it feels like everything's working out beautifully, it has moments where it feels like everything's falling apart, and when I can understand that that really is what life is, then I can really have peace because I'm not trying to manipulate it as much as I'm learning. I'm learning from everything. And I don't know about you, but my mistakes and my failures have been the places I've learned the most. And so we don't need to avoid pain. We need to be curious about it. What's happening to me when I'm feeling sad or resentful or jealous or whatever I'm feeling, or joyful? What happened then? That it's really a curiosity. And another one was don't take risks. Because in your family, you probably we're all, you're in this family, so we're all Jewish. We're all Catholic. We all eat spaghetti on Mondays because maybe that's what your mother liked to cook, right? You know, but you didn't realize you didn't have choice because these people are housing you and clothing you, and this is what we believe. We are the Smiths, and this is what we believe. And you're kind of going, well, I'm kind of independent here. I mean, in my thought process, right? But we don't see that. We don't experience that. So we can just be living in this world of I'm afraid of change. You know, I'm afraid to really have work that I love. And you know, another big one is if you're an artist or you're a singer, you're never going to make a living doing that. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but that's kind of a bummer if you're an artist or a singer, right? So we know that's not true. Well, you know, I'm glad Michelangelo's parents didn't tell him that. Yeah. So we know that there's a lot of things that aren't true that we have just come to believe. And I will say, I've studied families and family systems because I think systems are so interesting to see how I'm part of everything that's happening in my life. Have you noticed you are the common denominator in everything that's happened? So you have something to do with everything that's going on in your life. And there's usually a system of people, and how do we honor all the pieces of it rather than I have nothing to do with this or I have everything to do with this. So we're working with our communication, and families, very few families, and it's probably our greatest mission in life is to communicate with love and listen with love. And I never had a class when I was young about how to communicate with openness. Did you all have that class in school? I didn't. Anyway, so communication is one of our well-worn paths that we can, trust is another one that is a scary place. If you trust, you're going to get hurt. It goes on and on. But I say all this because there's a story about a mother and her son. It's a humorous story. So it is an idea of how it is that communication can break down, and really kind of the humor of it. I hope when you get together with people you've been with and known for a long time, you can find some humor, because this isn't about taking it seriously. It's about really kind of just being aware. All right, so John invited his mom over for dinner. And during the meal, his mother could not help notice how beautiful John's roommate was. Her name was Julie. And over dinner, while watching the two interact, she starts to wonder if there's more between John and Julie than meets the eye. Reading his mom's thoughts, John pulled his mom over to the side and said, "I know what you must be thinking, but I assure you, Julie and I are just roommates." About a week later, Julie said to John, "Ever since your mother came to dinner, I've been unable to find the silver gravy ladle. You don't think she took it, do you?" And John said, "Well, I doubt it, but I'll write her an email just to be sure." So he sits down at his computer and writes, "Dear Mother, I'm not saying you did take our gravy ladle from my house, and I'm not saying that you did not take the gravy ladle from our house, but the fact remains that it has been missing ever since you were here for dinner." So a few hours later, John receives an email from his mother that read, "Dear son, I'm not saying that you do sleep with Julie, and I'm not saying that you do not sleep with Julie, but the fact remains that if she was sleeping in her own bed, she would have found the gravy ladle by now." Love, Mom. Yes. So your family communicates like that also, right? Yes, and we wonder why we have communication issues, yes? So, yeah, thanks for laughing. I understand, though, this is always these backward ways of just asking questions, right? But I must admit, she was very clever, this lady. I liked her. So if we look at Scripture, Jesus tells us to enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. And I, of course, have to bring a little humor into this. See, Jesus was not aware of social distancing. Yes, he says, don't go to the wide road, go to the narrow gate. But what he's saying metaphysically is that what we were saying here is that this broad road of everyone that wants to have, be in fear and doubt and worry and really have made a way of life out of it. Have you noticed when you make a way of life out of it, you'll actually solve one problem and then you have another one. You're looking for it, right? Because this is my life. Drama. Yeah, I'm just used to it. If I don't have drama, this is kind of boring, just being peaceful. What is that about? So, but the narrow gate is really this life of choice, this life of choosing from a sense of a knowingness, a being guided by spirit, as you say in your vision statement and in your core values, is really being spirit-led. And I love it when I ask people if they want to do something and they say, give me a few days to think about that. Let me have some time to ponder and go within. And I'm always like, thank you. I mean, what a wise statement. Because most of us will be asked to do something and we feel obligated, or I got to make a decision fast, or I'm going to let them down, that's never the place to make a choice. It's from a place of feeling rushed or feeling anxiety or feeling obligation. It's not the experience of this narrow gate of you. Because when people make commitments to you and it isn't really from their highest place, and they're unhappy, and they, eventually come back and say, I didn't want to do that, you realize, wow, I wish everyone would just take the time. And we are taught that here. And it's a lovely experience, is slowing down to listen to what is happening within you as your life is unfolding before you. It becomes this kind of really like Sherlock Holmes experience of yourself, which is really what this life's about. It's becoming curious. So I've got a little roadmap for this road less traveled, and it is 3 words that we want to realize. It's a big thing just to be aware. Awareness is the beginning of everything. And so if you're committed, you're understanding this choice when we kind of chose because my mother wanted me to, my kids wanted me to do this. I felt obligated to be in the PTA or whatever your story is. Not your story, of course, Allison. She's running the PTA, but the experience of feeling that sense of making things out of obligation, and just to realize. If you're going the wrong way on the road, it's good to realize, yes, and you can make your U-turn and come back. I know when cars first started talking to us around directions and you'd be going the wrong way, a very kind voice would say, recalculating. So the idea is that we realize and then we recalculate, because you got to realize when this doesn't feel good. I've been making decisions like this for a long time. I'm always resentful at my spouse or my kids. I've got to realize that's happening, and then I get to recalculate. What would I do to turn this car of my life around? How could I recalculate? And this would be through all the things we do here, the affirmations, the meditation, the having the spiritual friends in your life, because that's a huge piece. Who do you call when you're in those times of, I'm feeling confused about this, I'm feeling unclear? And the third element, so it's realize, recalculate, and then to reinvent. And a lot of people are during this time saying, I'm reinventing myself. I'm like, yay. It is a reinvention. And I will tell you, it's not without the feeling of, I really loved coming to my spiritual center. There's a lot of social events that have really shifted for all of us, right? And we're on that thing called Zoom. We're Zooming all the time. It's like, wait, I wanted to slow down. I didn't want to Zoom. But we live, on Zoom. Anybody working for Zoom here, God bless you, this is a really great time. But so it's a lot of how do I reinvent myself? And it takes time. So be very patient on this road less traveled. So I want to tell you a story about one of the wonderful experiences with a Unity Center church. That really got me on a road less traveled, and was very scary and difficult, because I was also told, don't take risks, stay in the lane, stay in that big wide lane with all the people that are doing the same thing. And so I used to be a flight attendant for Pan Am, and your exit doors are here. I've always got to do that. Yes, and I was flying for Pan Am, and when I was hired, I was living in London, and it was really fun, and I enjoyed it. And I got a lot out of it for about 2 years. I traveled, went all over the place, and it was quite a ministry, working with people that were afraid to fly, and kids being sent from mom to dad, and a lot of things. In fact, a lot of flight attendants, you might have noticed. I hope there's none here, but don't really like people. Have you noticed that? They really don't, and so they really don't. And so they would. I had my colleagues would set up the cart. But they knew I was fine. Then they'd send Heidi out in the aisle. She can talk to anybody. And she's not really good at organizing the cart. So organize her cart, let her go out there. And especially that baby in row 19, let her take care of that baby. And it's, so it was, I already saw I was sort of in the people healing business. And but there became a time, Pan Am, it was interesting. When Pan Am went out of business, United bought the routes out of London, and I had 2 friends at the time, and they were both so clear about their road less traveled. One of them loved being a flight attendant. She'd grown up in the restaurant business, and she loved that kind of service. And the other one really hated being a flight attendant and was going to resign and go get a master's in social work. And I remember the 3 of us sitting there, and they were both so clear. And I was thinking, I just don't know. I'm not clear. And I'll say this is another part of this. When in doubt, don't. When in doubt, just be with this. Because I felt sort of, gosh, I wish I knew more. But I went through the interview with United. You had to go through an interview again. And I was hired by United. So I thought, okay, this is where I'll go. And I transferred to Florida. And I was flying out of Miami. And it wasn't just that it was I always said same uniform, different company, same uniform. Yeah, same job, but it just had I was complete. We have seasons of things in our life. It was really fun, and then physically it was challenging, and I wasn't feeling the depth that I wanted to feel. Chicken and fish, I was just sort of over it. And I just was feeling what I like to call divine discontent. Yeah, I mean, we can call it, it really doesn't help to say, I hate this job. It's like I'm experienced in divine discontent. Yeah, it's what it is. And it's a restlessness that is really your soul saying, what's next? What's next? And you evolve, right? There isn't like a parking space for this life thing. We evolve, we keep evolving. Every day is new. So we sort of have to keep up with ourselves. And I spent 2 years driving to the airport, crying, basically, just miserable. I'd take breaks, and I didn't know how to get out of this experience. But I had become part of Unity of Fort Lauderdale. And I started going up to Unity Village, those flight benefits, and I started taking courses, and I was working on my licensed Unity teacher experience. But in this pesky little class, the 4T prosperity class, I'm sure many of you people have taken it, they started to say things like, you're supposed to love your life. You're supposed to love what you do. Your work is supposed to be an extension of your heart and your spirit and your energy. And I was sort of, I can't say that. And they said, yes, well, now you're taking that job away from somebody else. I'm like, okay, so the codependent part of me was like, okay, I can do it. I can do it for somebody else. But more seriously, it was really it was my realization. I really this is not mine anymore. I don't feel aligned with it. And in this class, there was a prayer group, right? There was prayer. And so Unity, I thought, in my family, you don't give up a perfectly good job. That was a well-worn path. I mean, with benefits, flight benefits, are you kidding? Are you crazy? But I was unhappy, and my prayer group kept being, and that's part of why we need people that can see things for us, would say, Heidi, you really, you being miserable really isn't serving anyone. Have you noticed that? When you're miserable, you really aren't being that light that you are. And they sort of loved me as I learned to love myself, and they kept affirming for me that the work that I was in my heart would occur to me and would appear for me. And then it really became clear to me I needed to resign. And it was one of those scary leap of faith moments, and I know we've all had them, because you don't come into a center like this when you're not being asked to shift anything that is not of your well-being. Michelangelo said you just keep chipping off the parts of that masterpiece that don't belong anymore. And it felt like I was chipping marble to make this change. And a friend from the prayer group drove me to the airport to resign. And I went to go see my supervisor, who I hadn't seen. I didn't even know who she was, because you just sign in and get on the plane. And I went to talk to her, and I said, I'm part of this church, this spiritual path. I'm going on this path that I know is true for me, and I'm going to resign. I said, I have had a higher calling. And she leaned it in, and she said, higher than 30,000 feet? And I went, yeah. And I said, that's pretty good. I'd never met her before. And it was this moment of, the universe is really plotting for my good. She didn't say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Are you kidding? You're going to give up this job? She said, higher than 30,000 feet? And I went, yeah. To tell you the truth, I think so. I said, but we just stood there. I sat there for a moment with her, and she said, I am so inspired by what you're doing. She said, do you know how many people fly for the airlines? Because it's a seniority thing, and they just keep flying. They keep flying. They're really unhappy. And I said, I know, I've met a few of them on the plane. And she said, yeah, but what I want to tell you is that I'm really so inspired by your courage, by your insight, by your willingness to follow your heart. And she said, you are going to have nothing but success. And I went, wow, I would have talked to you before if I knew how evolved you were. But it was just that moment where I realized, everything, all is well. All is well, and it sort of always has been. I'm the one that needs to catch up with it. I'm the one it is this narrow gate of all the Heidi, the world's too scary, and there's no opportunities besides this one thing. There's not any relationships beside this one thing that maybe one is feeling challenge in, or there's nothing that can change. It's like you just stay on this path, and that's your life. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's not my life at all. It's this way of following the truth, of living in that light, of living the road less traveled. And I did show up then at Unity of Fort Lauderdale and went into the minister who knew me well, and I said, okay, I don't have a job now because of your little class. So what do you want me to do? And he said, well, there's a lot of things to do. And I ended up being hired by Unity of Fort Lauderdale and really cut my teeth at that center, that church, doing everything, from volunteer coordinating to speaking, to platforming, eventually speaking on Sunday, became a licensed Unity teacher and taught Unity classes, and just really came to see how a church really happens, how it works, and how we're all sort of working with where we are on our road less traveled. And there's not a bad place to be. There isn't a wrong place to be. It's that we really help each other to remember and to realize here. We awaken one another by our willingness to go through whatever it is and be on our road less traveled. Ralph Waldo Emerson says that. He does say it, and it's somewhere here. He says, do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. And I wonder what trail you've been leading in your life, because you have been making a new trail. I am sober in Alcoholics Anonymous now for 35 years, and it's a miracle one day at a time. But that trail that I've left from being the one sober person in my family has allowed other people in my family to call me when they are starting to look at addiction pieces and or meditation pieces or well-being things that was not our family's conversation. And so I didn't do that path for anyone to, that I'm going to fix anyone. I did that path to get off the streets that police asked me not to drink and drive, which was a handy thing. That was part of my awakening. So the streets are much better without me out there, I promise you. So the drinking, that is. So, but it's interesting the path you make by the choices you've made and how then people get to follow you on that path. And it's really important to acknowledge that path because this life, we can tend to forget about the blessing that we have been and the blessing that we are as we go on our road less traveled. And I know you've touched many, many people by doing that. I love to reflect on our master teachers, certainly Jesus and Buddha, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Amelia Earhart, all the people that went down the road of their road less traveled without knowing the outcome, for sure, but also at some point I've seen all these people sort of gave up a caring or a sort of a focus on even their physical life. You know, it's just that if I die, if I cannot be here physically, because most of them ended up in some kind of danger by speaking out in words that were uplifting. But a lot of people don't want to be uplifted, right? So, so this idea of that level of commitment. So I think it's always so beautiful. That's why we use scripture. That's why we talk about master teachers, because they were at such a level of depth and of teaching, they sort of gave up the physical safety, and that's why we're still talking about them, because that's such a level of greatness. And I want to just talk about a lady today who was an extraordinary soul on the planet. They actually made a movie about her life recently, and her name's Harriet Tubman. And Harriet Tubman was an American abolitionist and a political activist. She was born into slavery, and she escaped and subsequently made 13 missions to rescue approximately 70 enslaved people, including family and friends, using the network of anti-slavery activists and safe houses known as the Underground Railroad. And during the American Civil War, she served as an armed scout and spy for the Union Army, and in her late years, Tubman was an activist in the struggles for women's suffrage. And so to honor her life, and by popular demand, the U.S. Treasury announced that Tubman will replace Andrew Jackson on the center of the $20 bill as new bills are being made. And I recognize just the huge commitment, just Tubman, of so many, but especially to come back, find your way to freedom, and then go back to rescue other people. You can see that level of the road less traveled, the service, the spirit, the clarity of her path. Her quote is that every dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and to change the world. Change the world. So there was a movie that was created about her life. I don't know if you saw it. I'm going to bring I just have a little clip of it. It's when Harriet first came and experienced being a free woman, and the passion when she wanted to go back and help other people, the resistance she got from the gentleman she had come to know. And I just want you to see the wide path of the resistance. You know, when you're going to try something new, many people, don't go out there. Oh, don't quit that job. Oh, don't go out there into singing or artistry. And then this path that you're going to be like, hey, it's mine to do. Don't tell me I can't do it, because this is my life. So here is the Harriet movie.
Slave owners are getting frustrated with the amount of runaways. Federal judges, marshals, and slave catchers are working together. Even Congress is threatening to pass laws to appease the South.
If you won't help me, I'll go myself.
Hey, wait a second. Harriet, I can't have you risking your life for this network because you're lonely. Rescuing slaves requires skill and careful planning. It requires reading, Harriet. Can you read a sign or a map? Can you read it all?
I put my attention on trying to hear God's voice more clearly.
Do you know what would happen if you got caught? They would torture you until you pointed them right to this office. You got lucky, Harriet. And there's nothing more you can do.
Don't you tell me what I can't do. I made it this far on my own. God was watching, but my feet was my own. Running, bleeding, climbing, nearly drowned, nothing to eat for days and days, man. I made it. So don't you tell me what I can't do.
Yeah, I love it. The spirit of Harriet. Yes. That's right. I love how she said, God was directing me. God was directing me. And this is our experience of our road less travel. to continue to use the passion, the energy of our master teachers, of what is happening right here, our master teacher of everyone in this community. You know, to realize that you all are on a road less traveled in choosing a new spiritual leader, minister. It's taken a lot to realize what you're about, what you want to be about. You all have done a year of healing, of really recognizing who are we as individuals, as a community. You've been reinventing yourself in the sense of how is it that we go on, you know, allow ourselves to be that beacon of light that we're meant to be through the hearts of each and every one of you. So I have also been finding my road less traveled in the sense of I'm really wanting to step back into senior ministry and also be in a wonderful place like Santa Barbara. So I'll tell you, it's kind of like a dating thing, you know, when you get out on that road less traveled. So the first date's been really good. Santa Barbara is really great, and it's been wonderful to really meet and feel connected to so many of you. So I'd like to say, because I don't want to not say it on my road less traveled, that I'd love a second date. I'd love it to be a long-term relationship. So as you all are guided to choose your next spiritual leader, I'm definitely very interested. And so it's really great on our road less traveled to proclaim what it is that we want, to really proclaim it so we can hear it, and then allow the universe to do the rest. You know, as Robert Frost said, you know, choosing this path will make a difference. It is choosing that path that makes all the difference. It makes a difference in your life, and it will make a difference in the world. And so it is. Thank you. So we are now embracing that path, that road less traveled of generosity. And we know we give where we are spiritually fed. And so this is our time of love offering. And if you're giving online, I think you all have a box here, since with COVID, that you'll give in that box. I guess that's when we're finished. And if you're giving online, it is there's a donate button there, and I will be finding that other wonderful sheet that Sherry gave me. Anyway, so what we're going to do certainly is hold that offering in your hand, that place of generosity, the place of really growing in our flow of financial well-being. And so if you hold your gift in your hand and just infuse it, and if you're giving electronically, just put your hands together and just infuse it with the knowingness of traveling this road of abundance and prosperity for yourself and for the unity of Santa Barbara. And so we say together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I share. And so it is. Amen. So I believe now we are going to take this message and what is it we are doing? You're playing some music for this? A video. I'll be back after the video.
This inner space has the power to set me free. It's the cavern of creation and the truth of you and me. This inner space, an eternity of time. It's the moment of the holy now and the allness that is mine. This inner space contains all that I need. From deep within the invisible is the ebbing air I breathe. This inner space is flowing in my bones. It stirs my heart, it stirs my mind, and every prayer I've ever known. I say, breathe, just breathe. Now breathe this peace. This inner space is the ocean of your soul. And when you feel most broken, the truth is you are all. This inner space connects us one to all. And though we would never push you, it will break down every wall. And I say, breathe, just breathe. Now breathe this peace, this inner space invites us to renew, and all my endless choosing, I become the chosen to. This inner space never knows the past. In a quiet place you can hear it, and it might just make you laugh. And I say, breathe, just breathe. Now breathe this peace of this inner space.
Wow, beautiful. So, in that energy of breathing, let us allow our hearts to open and take in the message of today, the music, just to marinate in that vibration of truth that sets us free. So I allow you to see the chair in which you're sitting that is completely supporting you. Recognize that life supports you. Life says, I gotcha. Just rest and listen. You know, God, that we are created in the image and likeness, is omnipotent and omniscient, everywhere, all-knowing. So we don't have to have any idea that we are not heard or we are not valued. So we see ourselves standing at an intersection of two paths. One is well-worn, many, many people walking on it and living in a way of not being as focused or aware of how valuable words and thoughts are. And then there's another path that is not quite as open or clear, but we feel that sense of connection and belonging as we feel toward not only our spiritual awakening and unity of Santa Barbara, but perhaps other things we felt an ease to be connected to. Sort of an easy Yes, that is good for me. And what is good for me allows my light to shine, allows me to be that radiant source of God that automatically touches everywhere I go and everyone with whom I am with. And so I let myself begin down the path of my own light and my own heart. And as we sit in the silence, walking down this path, I'd like you to notice what's on this path and who's on this path, and just allow your heart to show you the way in the silence. We are born connected to our heart. When you think of babies and little children, they just follow their bliss. And so we commit to ourselves in this breath, in this moment, to realize when we are off this path of our life, to know in any moment we can step over into a place of heart connection, and we will reinvent ourselves through this Christ consciousness that is our divine inheritance. We let it flow, we listen deeply, and we say yes to the joy and the magnificence of our spirit. Amen. And so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Heidi, for that wonderful lesson and for that wonderful meditation. And I feel great. I feel like I've been fed spiritually today. I don't know about you. So we are, thumbs up on that. 2 thumbs up. Thank you. So this is the point where we're going to stand and say our prayer for protection, maintaining our social distancing. As we say together, the light of God surrounds us. I am that light. The love of God enfolds us. I am that love. The power of God protects us. I am that power. The presence of God watches over us. I am that presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And now let's remain standing and sing our peace song quietly.
Quietly.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator
all for coming this morning. Have a wonderful week, and please exit through the side doors here. And we would love to have your love offerings. You can leave them in the boxes. Have a great week, everyone.